They say you can't fight destiny. But what happens when an Alpha King chooses pride over fate and destroys the one person who could have saved him? Tonight, you're about to witness a rejection so brutal it shatters an entire kingdom. A woman discarded like trash. A bond severed in front of hundreds. And a king who realizes too late that he didn't just lose his mate, he lost his future. This is a story of power, revenge, and the dangerous price of arrogance. Stay until the end. You won't believe how she makes him pay. Drop a like if you're Team Elara, and comment your city below. Let's go. The Great Hall of Virestone Keep smelled like winter pine and old blood. Elara Thorne stood at the edge of the crowd, half hidden behind a marble column, watching the northern alphas parade through the main doors like conquerors. Their furs gleamed. Their wolves prowled just beneath their skin, eyes flashing gold in the firelight. This was the annual summit, a gathering of the most powerful packs in the northern territories, a show of strength, a dance of alliances. And she didn't belong here. She knew it. They knew it. The whispers had started the moment she entered. That's Thorne's daughter, the traitor's bloodline. Why is she even allowed inside? Elara kept her chin level, her hands folded, her heartbeat steady. She'd learned a long time ago that silence was armor. Let them talk. Let them sneer. She didn't need their approval. But she couldn't ignore the pull. It had started 3 days ago, a tug in her chest, faint at first, then stronger. A heat beneath her ribs that wouldn't fade, the kind of pull every wolf dreamed of and feared in equal measure. A fated bond, and it was leading her straight toward the center of the hall, toward him. Alpha King Kyle Viramont. He stood on the raised platform at the front, surrounded by advisors and enforcers, his presence a gravitational force. Tall, broad-shouldered, dark hair tied back, jaw sharp enough to cut glass. He wore authority like a second skin. When he spoke, people listened. When he moved, the room shifted to accommodate him. Elara had never spoken to him. Not once. She was nobody, a low-ranking wolf from a disgraced family, tolerated only because her father's crimes were considered settled. She'd stayed quiet for years, blending into the background, working as an herbalist in the Eastern Quarter, keeping her head down. But the bond didn't care about rank. It roared to life the moment their eyes met. Kyle's gaze locked onto hers across the crowded hall, and the world tilted sideways. His expression shifted. Surprise. Recognition. Something darker. His wolf knew. She could see it in the way his pupils dilated, the way his jaw tightened. He felt it too. For one fragile, impossible second, Elara let herself hope. Then his face went cold. He looked away. And just like that, the hope shattered. Chin. The summit continued. Speeches were made. Trade agreements announced. Border disputes settled. Elara stood frozen, her pulse hammering, trying to make sense of what just happened. He knew. He felt the bond, and he looked away. A hand gripped her elbow. Miss Thorne? The voice was low, formal. One of the king's advisors, a silver-haired man named Corwin. The Alpha King requests your presence. Privately. Her stomach dropped. Now? Now. She followed him through a side corridor, away from the noise and heat of the main hall. The stone walls pressed in, lit by flickering torches. Her footsteps echoed. Her heart was a war drum. They stopped outside a small council room. Corwin opened the door, gestured her inside, then left without a word. Kyle stood by the window, his back to her. The bond flared again, stronger now, closer. It burned like fever, like longing, like something ancient and unstoppable. Elara forced herself to breathe. You feel it, she said quietly. He didn't turn around. I do. Silence. Then why? Because it doesn't matter. His voice was flat, final. He turned to face her, and his expression was unreadable. You're a thorn. Your father sold intelligence to rival packs. He weakened this kingdom. He got 12 wolves killed. I wasn't part of that. You carry his name, his blood. That makes you a liability. The words hit like a slap. Elara kept her voice steady. I've done nothing but serve this pack. I've healed your warriors. I've kept my head down. I've lived quietly for 6 years trying to earn back what he destroyed. And you've done well, Kyle said, almost gently. But this bond, it's a political disaster. I'm negotiating alliances with 3 major packs right now. If I claim you as my mate, I lose all of them. They'll see it as weakness. A king ruled by fate instead of strategy. So you're rejecting me. I'm protecting the kingdom. She stared at him, really looked at him, and for the first time she saw the truth. He wasn't conflicted, he wasn't torn. He'd already made his choice. Duty over destiny, politics over her. Fine. Then say it, Elara said, her voice calm, cold. Out loud, publicly. If you're going to destroy this bond, do it properly. Don't hide it in some back room like a coward. Kyle's eyes narrowed. You want me to reject you in front of the entire summit? I want you to own your decision. For a moment, he just stared at her. Then he nodded slowly. As you wish, Ted. 20 minutes later, Elara stood in the center of the great hall. The crowd had gone silent. Hundreds of wolves, alphas, enforcers, council members, watched from every corner. The firelight cast long shadows. The air felt too thick to breathe. Kale stood on the platform above her, his voice steady and clear. Before this assembly, I acknowledge the fated bond between myself and Elara Thorne. His words echoed off the stone walls. And before this assembly, I formally reject it. The bond snapped. It didn't fade. It didn't weaken. It broke, sharp and sudden, like a bone cracking in half. Elara gasped, her knees buckling, her chest caving inward. The pain was instant, blinding, a white-hot blade driven straight through her ribs, but she didn't fall. She locked her legs, straightened her spine, and lifted her head. The hall was silent. Kyle looked down at her, his expression unreadable. But she saw it, just for a second, the flicker of something in his eyes. Regret, doubt, pain. Too late. Elara's voice came out steady, cold as winter steel. I accept your rejection, Alpha King. She severed the bond from her side. The effect was immediate. The invisible thread between them, already broken, disintegrated. The lingering warmth, the phantom pull, the faint hum of connection, gone. Completely. Cleanly. Kael's face went white. He staggered back half a step, his hand going to his chest as if something vital had just been ripped out. Around the hall, wolves murmured. A few gasped. It wasn't supposed to feel like that. Rejections were painful, yes, but they usually left a shadow. A ghost of the bond. This was total annihilation. Elara turned on her heel and walked toward the main doors. Her legs felt like lead, her chest felt hollow, but she kept moving. No one stopped her. She pushed through the heavy oak doors and stepped out into the freezing northern night. The snow was falling in thick, silent curtains. The cold bit into her skin, but she welcomed it. Anything was better than the heat of that room. The stairs, the pity. She made it halfway across the courtyard before her legs finally gave out. She collapsed onto the snow-covered stones, gasping, shaking, her hands pressed to her chest where the bond had been. The pain was unbearable now, sharp, relentless, carving her open from the inside. But she didn't cry. She wouldn't give them that. Footsteps crunched behind her. Elara. She looked up. A man stood in the shadows near the gate, tall, older, wrapped in a dark cloak. His face was half hidden, but his voice was familiar. Impossible. Father? Darius Thorne stepped forward, his expression grim. We need to leave. Now. You're supposed to be dead. I know. I'll explain later. But right now there are wolves coming for you. The council decided you're too dangerous to leave alive. Elara's mind spun. What? They think you'll try to reclaim the bond, challenge the king's authority. They're sending enforcers to eliminate the problem quietly. She stared at him, disbelief warring with survival instinct. Why would you come back now? Because you're my daughter, and because I've been building something they don't know about. He extended a hand. Trust me one more time. Please. Elara looked back at the keep, the warm glow of the windows, the life she'd tried so hard to rebuild. It was never hers. Not really. She took his hand. They disappeared into the storm. Inside the great hall, Kyle stood frozen on the platform. His chest felt like a crater. His wolf was howling, an endless, agonized sound that echoed in his skull. Around him, the summit continued. Conversations resumed. Alliances were discussed, but all he could feel was absence. Corwin approached carefully. Your Majesty, the northern delegation is ready to finalize. She's gone. Yes, my lord. As planned. Kale's hands clenched into fists. Send someone to check on her. Make sure she's safe. Corwin hesitated. My lord, with respect, the council feels it's better to maintain distance. For appearances. I don't care about appearances. Send someone. Of course. But Corwin didn't move fast enough. 20 minutes later, a scout returned breathless. She's gone, Your Majesty. Left the territory entirely. No one knows where. Kael's blood went cold. What do you mean, gone? Vanished. No trail. No scent. It's like she disappeared into thin air. The room tilted. Kael's wolf surged forward, snarling, clawing at the edges of his control. He shoved it down, barely. Find her. Sir, the council advised, find her. But deep down, he already knew. She wasn't coming back, and he had no one to blame but himself. 3 months later, the kingdom was fracturing. It started small. Supply routes delayed, trade agreements stalling, border patrols reporting strange gaps in communication. Nothing catastrophic, nothing obvious, but Kael felt it. The instability was subtle, insidious, like a foundation slowly cracking beneath the weight of a house. His advisors dismissed it as coincidence. Bad luck. Seasonal disruption. But Kael knew better. It started the night he rejected Elara. He hadn't slept properly in weeks. His wolf was a constant, restless presence, pacing, snarling, refusing to settle. The bond was gone. He'd made sure of that. But the absence was worse than the pull had ever been. He tried to bury himself in work. Meetings, strategy, expansion plans. It didn't help. Your Majesty. He looked up. Corwin stood in the doorway of the study, his expression tight. The Eastern supply caravan didn't arrive. Again. Kael's jaw clenched. That's the third one this month. Yes, my lord. And the Southern trade partners? Still refusing to renegotiate. They claim our terms are unstable. Unstable, that word again. Kael stood, pacing to the window. Outside, snow blanketed the grounds. The same snow that had fallen the night she left. What else? Corwin hesitated. There's a rumor. Nothing confirmed. Tell me. Some of the smaller packs are saying that rejecting a fated mate destabilizes a kingdom, that it disrupts the natural order. Kael's hands curled into fists. That's superstition. Perhaps. But superstition or not, they believe it, and belief shapes action. Kael turned sharply. You think this is my fault. I think, Corwin said carefully, that perception matters. And right now the perception is that you chose politics over fate, and the kingdom is suffering for it. Silence. Kael wanted to argue, to rage, to prove them all wrong. But he couldn't, because deep down, in the place he refused to examine, he felt it too. Something vital had been lost that night, and he had no idea how to get it back. 6 months after the rejection. The meeting was supposed to be routine, a negotiation with a corporate entity that controlled key infrastructure in the neutral zones, power grids, water systems, transit networks, the kind of resources a kingdom needed to survive. Kael's territory was struggling. The fractures had deepened. Supplies were failing. Allies were pulling back. He needed this deal, desperately. He arrived at the corporate tower in the human city with 2 enforcers and Corwin. The building was sleek, modern, all glass and steel, a far cry from the stone keeps of the wolf territories. They were escorted to a top-floor boardroom, and that's when Kael's world stopped. She sat at the head of the table. Elara. But not the Elara he remembered. This woman wore a tailored black suit, her hair pulled back, her posture sharp and controlled. She looked like she belonged here, like she owned the room. No trace of the quiet, fragile wolf who'd stood in his hall 6 months ago. Her eyes met his, cold, steady, unreadable. Alpha King Viremont, she said smoothly. Thank you for coming. Kael couldn't breathe. Corwin stiffened beside him. The enforcers looked confused. Elara smiled faintly. Please, sit. Kael didn't move. What is this? This, she said, gesturing to the table, is a business meeting. You need infrastructure support. I control the company that provides it. She tilted her head. Surely you reviewed the briefing materials. He had. The company name, Thorn Dynamics, hadn't registered. It was a shell corp, layered, hidden, just like her. You've been working? The words sounded stupid even as he said them. Building, she corrected. My father and I have been building something while you've been playing king. Darius Thorn stepped out from a side door, alive, healthy, and very much in control. Kale's wolf snarled. Relax, Elara said coolly. We're not here to fight. We're here to offer you a deal. She slid a folder across the table. Kale stared at it like it might explode. Open it, she said. He did. Inside were contracts, proposals, infrastructure agreements that would stabilize his kingdom overnight, everything he needed, at a price. You want control of the eastern trade routes, Kale said slowly. Partial control, shared oversight. That undermines my sovereignty. It saves your kingdom. Her voice was ice. You have two choices, Kyle. Sign this deal and survive, or walk out and watch everything you built collapse within a year. He looked up at her, searching for some trace of the woman he'd rejected. She was gone. This Elara was a stranger, sharp, dangerous, unbreakable, and she held all the cards. Kael's hands shook as he picked up the pen. He signed. Elara took the contract, scanned it briefly, then nodded. Pleasure doing business with you, Alpha King. She stood. Wait. Kael's voice cracked. Elara. She paused, her hand on the back of her chair. Don't, she said quietly. You made your choice. Live with it. She walked out, and Kael was left standing in a sterile boardroom, the contract in his hands, the weight of his mistakes crushing his chest. The contract sat on Kael's desk for 3 days before he could bring himself to read it again. Every clause was airtight, every term calculated. She'd left him no room to maneuver, no loopholes to exploit. Thorn Dynamics would control 40% of the eastern trade corridors. In exchange, his kingdom got the infrastructure support it desperately needed. Power, water, supply chain stabilization. It was a lifeline, and a leash. Corwin entered the study without knocking, his face pale. The council is demanding answers. Kael didn't look up. About what? About why you just handed over a third of our economic sovereignty to a corporation run by a dead traitor and his disgraced daughter. It's not a third. It's 40% of the eastern routes. That's semantics, and you know it. Corwin crossed his arms. They're calling for an emergency session. They want you to explain how Elara Thorn went from a rejected mate to a corporate power broker in 6 months. Kael's jaw tightened. I don't have an answer. Then find one. Because if you can't justify this, they'll remove you. The words hung in the air like a blade. Kael finally looked up. They can't remove a king. They can if the king is deemed unfit. Corwin's voice softened slightly. Kael, I've served your family for 20 years. I'm telling you this as a friend. You're losing control. The rejection destabilized you. Everyone sees it. And now this deal with her, it looks like weakness, like you're still tied to her. I'm not. Then prove it. Kael stood abruptly, his chair scraping back. Get out. Corwin hesitated, then bowed stiffly and left. Kael stared at the contract again, his hands curling into fists. The bond was gone. He'd made sure of that, but the absence still burned, a phantom limb he couldn't stop reaching for. And now she was back. Not broken. Not begging. Stronger than he'd ever imagined. He hated it. He hated how much it impressed him. 200 miles south, in a glass-walled office overlooking the human city, Elara sat across from her father. Darius Thorn looked older than she remembered, grayer, thinner, but his eyes were sharp as ever. You enjoyed that, he said, a faint smile tugging at his mouth. Elara didn't deny it. He deserved it. Maybe, but revenge is expensive. The deal gives us leverage, but it also paints a target on your back. The northern packs won't tolerate a Thorn controlling their supply lines. They don't have a choice. We control the infrastructure. Without us, their territory collapses. And if they decide to take it by force? Elara leaned back in her chair. Then we cut the power and watch them freeze. Darius studied her for a long moment. You've changed. I had to. I know. He sighed, rubbing his temples. But you're thinking like a tactician now. That's good. Just don't forget you're still a wolf. Politics won't protect you if they send enforcers. That's why I have you. I'm not a fighter anymore, Elara. I'm a ghost. I've been hiding for 6 years. He gestured to the window. This empire we've built, it's fragile. One wrong move and it collapses. Then we don't make wrong moves. A knock interrupted them. A young woman entered, mid-20s, sharp-eyed, dressed in corporate black. Her name was Maya, and she'd been Darius's right hand for the last 3 years. Former military, now head of security. We've got movement, Maya said without preamble. 3 wolf packs just requested emergency meetings with Thorn Dynamics. All in the last hour. Elara's eyes narrowed. Which packs? Riverstone, Ashmar, and Coldridge. All northern territories, all allied with Kael. They're trying to cut us out, Darius said quietly. Or they're hedging their bets, Elara countered. Kael's kingdom is unstable. They're looking for alternatives. Either way, it's dangerous. Maya crossed her arms. If they unite against us, we're outnumbered. We don't have an army. We have contracts and leverage. That only works if they respect the system. Then we make them respect it. Elara stood. Set up the meetings separately. I want to know what each pack wants before they start coordinating. Maya nodded and left. Darius watched his daughter with something like pride. You're playing a dangerous game. It's the only game worth playing. Well, the first meeting was with Alpha Joran of Riverstone, a broad, grizzled wolf in his 50s who'd been consolidating power for decades. He sat across from Elara in the same boardroom where she'd met Kael, his enforcers flanking him like statues. I'll be blunt, Joran said, his voice a low rumble. I don't trust you. Elara smiled faintly. Good. Trust is overrated. Your father sold intelligence that got wolves killed. You carry his blood, and now you control resources that my pack depends on. He leaned forward. Why shouldn't I just take what I need? Because you'd lose. Elara slid a tablet across the table. Those are the access codes to your territory's primary water treatment facility. We control it remotely. If you move against us, your people drink contaminated water within 48 hours. Joran's face darkened. You're threatening me? I'm clarifying the situation. Elara's voice didn't waver. You need us more than we need you. But I'm not interested in making enemies. I'm offering a partnership. Partnership. He spat the word like poison. You mean submission. I mean survival. She leaned forward. Kael's kingdom is fracturing. You've seen it. Supply failures, trade disruptions, instability, and you're next. The northern territories are interconnected. When one falls, the rest follow. So you're offering to save us. I'm offering to stabilize the system in exchange for cooperation. Joran stared at her for a long moment. Then he laughed, a harsh, bitter sound. You've got guts, I'll give you that, but you're still just a girl playing dress-up in a corporate suit. Elara didn't flinch. I'm the girl who rebuilt power from nothing while you've been playing border wars. Underestimate me if you want, but don't say I didn't warn you. She stood. Joran's enforcers tensed, but he waved them down. I'll think about it, he said finally. Don't think too long. Opportunities expire. She walked out. Bam. The second meeting went worse. Alpha Reese of Ashmar was younger, sharper, more paranoid. He spent the first 10 minutes accusing Elara of espionage, sabotage, and conspiracy. You orchestrated Kael's collapse, he said flatly. You severed the bond, destabilized his wolf, and now you're profiting off the chaos. Elara kept her expression neutral. If I had that kind of power, why would I bother with contracts? I'd just take what I want. Maybe you are. Then why are you here? That stopped him. Reese leaned back, studying her. I'm here because I'm curious. Everyone says you're dangerous, a threat, but I don't see it. I see a girl who got rejected and ran away. Then you're not looking hard enough. Prove it. Elara smiled. You have a supply problem. Grain shipments from the southern plains. They've been delayed 3 months in a row. Your people are starting to ration. You blame the weather. Reese's eyes narrowed. How do you know that? Because I own the logistics company that handles your shipments, and I've been intentionally delaying them. His wolf flashed in his eyes, gold, furious. You what? I needed leverage. Elara's voice was calm. Now I have it. Sign a cooperation agreement with Thorn Dynamics and your shipments resume. Refuse and your pack starves before winter. Reese shot to his feet, his chair clattering back. You're insane. I'm strategic. You're a monster. I'm a survivor. Elara stood as well, her voice hardening. And I learned from the best. Your kind taught me that power is the only thing that matters. So I built it. Don't hate me for playing the game better than you. Reese stared at her, his hand shaking with barely controlled rage. Then he turned and stormed out. Elara exhaled slowly. Maya appeared in the doorway. That could have gone better. It went exactly as expected. Elara gathered her files. He'll sign. He just needs time to realize he has no other choice. The third meeting never happened. Alpha Senna of Coldridge sent a message instead, a single line. I don't negotiate with traitors. Elara crumpled the note and tossed it in the trash. So much for diplomacy, Maya muttered. We don't need all of them, Elara said. Just enough to shift the balance. And if Kyle finds out you've been manipulating his allies, he already knows. Elara looked out the window. He's just too proud to admit it. Back in Firestone, Kyle was starting to piece it together. The delays, the disruptions, the coincidences that weren't coincidences. She'd been playing him from the start. She's sabotaging us, he said, his voice low and dangerous. Corwin stood across from him, arms folded. We don't have proof. I don't need proof. I can feel it. Kale slammed his hand on the desk. Every supply failure, every delayed shipment, it's her. She's tightening the noose. Then confront her. And say what? Accuse her of crimes we can't prove? That makes me look paranoid. Then what do you want to do? Kale's jaw clenched. I want to know how she built this empire in 6 months, where she got the resources, the connections, the intelligence. I can look into it. No. Kale stood. I'll do it myself. 3 days later, Kale arrived at Thorn Dynamics unannounced. The security team tried to stop him. He ignored them, pushing past the front desk and into the elevator. His enforcers stayed close, hands on their weapons. He reached the top floor and stormed into Elara's office. She sat at her desk, completely unsurprised. Alpha King, she said calmly, you should have made an appointment. Cut the corporate act. Kyle's voice was a growl. I know what you're doing. I'm running a business. You're sabotaging my kingdom. I'm stabilizing the Northern Territories. There's a difference. By strangling my supply lines? Elara leaned back in her chair. Your supply lines were failing long before I got involved. I just gave you an alternative. At a price I can't afford. Then maybe you should have thought about that before you rejected your fated mate in front of 200 witnesses. The words hit like a punch. Kyle's wolf surged, but he shoved it down. This isn't about the bond. Isn't it? Elara stood, her eyes cold. You threw me away like garbage. You humiliated me. And now you're angry that I didn't stay broken? I made a strategic decision, and I'm making mine. She walked around the desk. You chose politics over fate. Fine. But don't act surprised when fate stops protecting you. That's superstition. Is it? She stopped in front of him. Your kingdom has been falling apart since the moment you rejected me. Supplies failing, allies questioning your leadership, instability spreading like rot. Call it superstition if you want. But it's happening. Kael's hands clenched into fists. If you wanted revenge, congratulations. You got it. I don't want revenge. Elara's voice softened slightly. I want balance. The Northern Territories are broken, Kael. The old system, where alphas hoard power and crush anyone who threatens them, it doesn't work anymore. I'm building something better. By controlling us? By giving you a choice. Work with me, and we all survive. Fight me, and we all burn. Kael stared at her, his wolf howling in his chest. She was right. He hated it, but she was right. "Why are you doing this?" he asked quietly. Elara's expression flickered, something almost sad. "Because I had to." "You made sure of that." Before he could respond, alarms blared. Maya burst through the door. "We've got a problem. Armed wolves, 30, maybe 40. They just breached the building perimeter." Kale's blood went cold. "Who sent them?" "Does it matter?" Elara was already moving, pulling files from her desk. "They're here to kill me." "How do you know?" "Because it's what I would do." The building shook as the first explosion ripped through the lower floors. Elara grabbed her coat, her movement sharp and controlled. "East stairwell, now!" Kale's enforcers moved to flank her, but she waved them off. "Protect the data servers on floor 6. If they get those, we lose everything." "I'm not leaving you," Kale said. "I don't need your protection." "Too bad." Another explosion. Closer. Maya appeared with 2 handguns, tossing one to Elara. "Hostiles moving up. 12 on the stairs. 20 more in the lobby." Elara checked the weapon, her hand steady. "Where's my father?" "Safe room. 3rd sublevel." "Good." She turned to Kyle. "You need to leave." "I'm not going anywhere." "This isn't your fight." "Like hell it isn't." Kale's eyes flashed gold. "Someone just declared war on you. That makes it my problem, too." Elara stared at him for half a second. Then she nodded. "Fine, stay close." They moved fast. Down the east stairwell, Maya leading, Kale's enforcers bringing up the rear. The building groaned around them, smoke filtering through the vents. They reached the 3rd floor before the ambush hit. Wolves poured out of a side corridor, masked, armed, moving with military precision. Not rogue. Trained. Maya fired first. 2 down. Kale shifted partially, claws extending, and tore into the nearest attacker. His enforcers followed. Elara stayed behind cover, firing controlled bursts, each shot deliberate. "They're hurting us," she shouted over the chaos. "Where?" Kyle snarled, blood on his hands. "Roof. They want us trapped." "Then we go down." "Can't. Lower floors are collapsing." A wolf lunged at Elara. She sidestepped, slammed the gun into his temple, and dropped him. No hesitation, no fear. Kyle watched her move. Efficient, brutal, nothing like the quiet herbalist he remembered. She'd become something else entirely. "Fall back," Maya shouted. "Roof access, go!" They ran. The stairwell was narrow, the smoke thicker now. Elara's lungs burned, but she didn't slow. They burst through the roof access door into freezing wind and open sky. The city sprawled below them, lights glittering in the darkness. And blocking the only exit, 10 wolves. Bigger. Older. Elite enforcers. Leading them was a man Elara recognized, Garrick Voss, former enforcer, disgraced for brutality. He smiled. "Hello, little thorn." Elara raised her gun. "Walk away, Garrick." "Can't do that. Got a contract. High-paying client wants you dead." "Who?" "Doesn't matter. You'll be gone before you figure it out." Kale stepped forward, his wolf fully surfaced now. "You're making a mistake." Garrick's eyes flicked to him, surprised. "Alpha King. Didn't expect to see you here. This personal?" "Leave, now." "Or what? You'll fight us? You're outnumbered." "I don't care." Garrick laughed. "Touching, but business is business." He lunged. The fight erupted in a blur of claws, teeth, gunfire. Kale tore into 2 enforcers, his wolf a savage, unstoppable force. Maya dropped 3 more, with precise shots. Elara stayed mobile, using the terrain, never staying in one place long enough to be pinned. But they were losing. Too many enemies. Not enough cover. Elara's gun clicked empty. She threw it aside, grabbed a piece of debris, and swung hard into an attacker's skull. He went down. Garrick cornered her near the edge of the roof. "End of the line," he said, grinning. Elara didn't answer. She glanced at the ledge. 30 feet down, fire escape below. She jumped. Garrick roared and dove after her. Elara hit the fire escape hard, rolling to absorb the impact. Pain shot through her shoulder, but she kept moving. Garrick landed beside her, slower, heavier. She kicked out, catching his knee. He stumbled. She ran. Behind her, the sounds of fighting continued. Kyle's voice, raw, furious. Maya shouting orders. Elara hit the ground level and sprinted into the alley. Her comms crackled. Elara, status? Her father's voice tight with fear. Alive, barely. Get the servers offline. Wipe everything. Already done. Where are you? East Alley. I need extraction. 2 minutes. Footsteps behind her. Garrick, bleeding but relentless. Elara turned a corner, her lungs screaming. She couldn't outrun him. Not like this. So she stopped. Garrick rounded the corner and froze. Elara stood in the center of the alley, hands raised. You win, she said quietly. Garrick approached slowly, suspicion in his eyes. That easy? No. Elara's voice was ice. But I'm smart enough to know when I'm beaten. He grabbed her arm, yanking her forward. That's when the shadows moved. Darius Thorne stepped out from behind a dumpster, a silenced pistol in his hand. He fired once. Garrick dropped. A neat hole in his temple. Elara exhaled shakily. Took you long enough. I'm old. Give me a break. Darius holstered the weapon. Come on. Car's waiting. They ran. Back on the roof, Kael finished the last enforcer, his claws dripping red. The fight was over. His enforcers were wounded but alive. Maya was already on her comms, calling for backup, but Elara was gone. Kael's chest tightened, not with pain, but with something worse. Relief. She was alive. He didn't know how he knew, but he felt it, and it terrified him how much that mattered. Maya approached, wiping blood from her face. She made it out. My team confirmed. Who sent the hit? Kael's voice was barely human. No idea. But this wasn't random. Someone wanted her dead badly enough to hire Voss. Kael looked out over the burning city, his mind racing. Someone was playing a deeper game, and Elara was at the center of it. Whether he liked it or not, they were tied together now. Not by fate. By war. By war. The thought echoed in Kael's head long after the flames were extinguished and the bodies removed. He stood in what remained of Thorne Dynamics headquarters. Shattered glass, scorched walls, blood dried black on the concrete. His enforcers had secured the perimeter, but the damage was done. Someone had just tried to kill Elara Thorne in broad daylight, and he'd been there to see it. Your Majesty. Corwin appeared at his side, soot-streaked and grim. We need to leave. This is human territory. Police are on the way. Kael didn't move. Who did this? We're working on it. Work faster. Sir, I want names, Corwin. I want to know who hired Voss, who funded the attack, and who's stupid enough to think they can wage war on corporate ground without consequences. Corwin hesitated. There's a theory. Tell me. The council. Your council. Kael's blood went cold. Explain. 3 members have been pushing hard to void your contract with Thorne Dynamics. They've called it treason, a betrayal of wolf sovereignty. If Elara dies, the contract becomes void. Your kingdom gets the infrastructure without the oversight. That's insane. That's politics. Corwin's voice was quiet. And it's effective. If she's dead, you're free. No strings. No shared control. Kael turned slowly, his wolf simmering just beneath the surface. You think I'd sanction an assassination? No, but I think someone assumed you would. The words landed like stones. Kael grabbed Corwin by the collar, yanking him close. Find out who, and if it's one of ours, bring them to me alive. He shoved Corwin back and walked out. Elara sat in the back of a reinforced SUV, her hands shaking despite her best efforts to still them. Adrenaline was wearing off, replaced by the dull ache of bruises and the sharp sting of scraped skin. Darius sat across from her, silent, watching. Say it, Elara muttered. Say what? That you were right, that this was too dangerous, that I should have stayed hidden. Darius shook his head. I wasn't going to say that. Then what? That you handled it. He leaned forward. 30 armed wolves, a professional kill squad, and you walked out alive. That's not luck, Elara. That's skill. She looked down at her hands, knuckles scraped raw, a bruise blooming purple across her wrist. I got sloppy. I should have seen it coming. You can't predict everything. I can try. The car turned onto a narrow access road, heading toward one of their backup locations, a safe house buried in the industrial district. Maya sat up front, coordinating with their remaining security teams. We lost the building, Maya said without turning around. Servers are intact, but the physical office is gone. It'll take weeks to rebuild. Then we don't rebuild, Elara said. We move operations offshore, decentralize, make it harder to target us. That'll slow everything down. Better slow than dead. Maya nodded. Darius watched his daughter with something close to concern. You need rest. I need answers. Elara's voice was sharp. Voss didn't organize that attack alone. Someone hired him. Someone with resources and reach. I want to know who. We're tracing the money, Maya said. But it's buried deep. Shell companies, offshore accounts. Whoever funded this knew what they were doing. Elara's jaw tightened. Then dig deeper. Kael returned to Virestone Keep at dawn. The council was waiting. 7 wolves sat around the war table. Alphas, advisors, enforcers. The most powerful voices in the Northern Territories. And right now they looked ready to tear him apart. You disappeared for 3 days, Counselor Maris said, his tone clipped. No word, no explanation, just vanished into human territory. I was handling a threat, Kael said flatly. A threat? Counselor Vale leaned forward, his eyes cold. Or visiting your rejected mate? The room went silent. Kael's wolf surged, but he held it back. Careful. It's a legitimate question, Vale continued. You rejected the bond publicly. You signed a contract giving her economic leverage over this kingdom, and now you're running to her aid when she's attacked? It looks like weakness. It looks like strategy, Kael shot back. She controls infrastructure we need. If she dies, the supply chain collapses. I was protecting our interests. Or protecting her, Maris said quietly. Kael's hands curled into fists. If you have something to say, say it. Maris stood. We believe the bond wasn't fully severed, that you're still compromised, and that's why you're making decisions that endanger this kingdom. The bond is gone. Then prove it. Kael stared at him. How? By cutting ties with Thorn Dynamics, void the contract, reclaim our sovereignty. That'll destroy us. We need those supply routes. We'll find alternatives. There are no alternatives, Kael's voice echoed off the stone walls. I've looked. Every option is worse. We either work with her or we collapse. Those are the choices. Then maybe, Vale said slowly, you're not fit to make them. The words hung in the air like a death sentence. Kael's wolf roared, breaking through his control for just a second, his eyes flashing gold, his claws extending. The council didn't flinch. You want to challenge me? Kael's voice was low, dangerous. We want you to remember who you are, Maris said. You're a king, not a lovesick wolf chasing a bond that nearly destroyed you. I'm not chasing anything. Then act like it. Kael's chest heaved, his control fraying. He wanted to tear them apart. Every instinct screamed at him to fight, to dominate, to remind them who held power here. But he couldn't, because part of him knew they were right. He turned and walked out. Elara stared at the screen in front of her, her eyes burning from lack of sleep. Maya had tracked the money. It led back to a dummy corporation registered in the Cayman Islands, funded by an account tied to a northern pack, but not Kael's. Riverstone. Alpha Joran. Son of a bitch, Elara muttered. Darius looked over her shoulder. You sure? The trail's clean. Joran funded the hit. Why? Because I threatened him. Elara sat back, rubbing her temples. I told him we controlled his water supply. He didn't like being backed into a corner, so he tried to kill you. Smart move, actually. If I'm dead, he doesn't have to negotiate. He just takes what he wants. What do we do? Elara was quiet for a long moment. Then she stood. We hit him first. Maya looked up sharply. You want to go to war? I want to send a message. Elara's voice was cold. Joran thinks he can kill me and walk away clean. I'm going to show him what happens when you miss. Elara, Darius said carefully, if you retaliate, every pack in the north will see it as aggression. They'll unite against you. Let them. I'm done playing defense. This is a mistake. No. Elara turned to face him. Hiding was a mistake. Running was a mistake. I tried to build power quietly, and it almost got me killed. Now I'm done being quiet. Darius stared at her, recognition dawning in his eyes. You're going after the whole system, aren't you? I'm going after anyone who thinks I'm weak. 2 days later, Riverstone's primary water treatment facility went offline. The shutdown was surgical, remotely triggered, no physical damage, just a complete cessation of function. Within 6 hours, the pack's water supply was contaminated. Within 12, panic set in. Alpha Joran called an emergency meeting. Elara answered. She appeared on the video call flanked by Maya and her father, her expression calm. Joran's face was red with rage. Turn it back on. No, you're poisoning my pack. I'm making a point. Elara leaned forward. You tried to kill me. You failed. Now you're learning what happens when you underestimate me. This is an act of war. No, this is business. Her voice was ice. You attacked my company. I'm defending my interests. If you want your water back, you'll sign the cooperation agreement. No negotiation, no changes. You have 24 hours. I'll go to the other alphas. They'll back me. They won't. Elara smiled faintly. Because they're all wondering if I control their infrastructure too, and they're too smart to test me. Joran's hands shook. You're insane. I'm effective. There's a difference. She stood. 24 hours, Joran. Choose wisely. She ended the call. Maya exhaled slowly. That was bold. That was necessary. Elara turned to her father. What's our exposure? High, Darius admitted. If the other packs unite against us, we're vulnerable. We don't have enforcers. We don't have an army. We don't need one. We have leverage. Elara pulled up a map on the main screen, the Northern Territories, lit up with nodes representing infrastructure they controlled. Water, power, supply routes. We own the foundation their kingdoms are built on. They can't afford to fight us. Unless they decide to take it by force, Maya said. Then we burn it all down. Elara's voice didn't waver. If they want war, I'll give them scorched earth. Darius looked at his daughter with something close to fear. You've changed. I had to. Kale heard about Riverstone within the hour. Corwin burst into his study, breathless. Joran's water supply is down. Elara shut it off remotely. Kyle's stomach dropped. Why? Retaliation. We traced the money from the attack. It came from Joran. He tried to kill her? And failed. Now she's making an example of him. Kale stood abruptly. How bad is it? Bad. His pack's in chaos. He's got 48 hours before people start dying of dehydration. Can he fix it? Not without her. Corwin's expression was grim. She controls the system remotely. He's helpless. Kale paced, his mind racing. The other alphas, are they backing him? No, they're terrified. If she can do this to Joran, she can do it to any of them. So she's won. For now, but Kyle, this escalates everything. She's not just a corporate entity anymore. She's a threat, a real one. The council is going to push for military action. Against what? A woman in a boardroom? Kale's voice was sharp. She doesn't have territory. She doesn't have warriors. She's untouchable. She's not untouchable, she's just smart. Corwin crossed his arms. But smart doesn't protect you from claws. Kale stopped pacing. You think the council will send enforcers after her? I think they already have. The words hit like a hammer. Kyle grabbed his coat. Where is she? I don't know. She's gone dark. Find her. Kyle, if you go after her again, I don't care. Kale's eyes flashed gold. Find her. Now. Elara was 3 steps ahead. She'd anticipated the backlash. The moment she shut down Riverstone's water, she'd moved operations again, this time to a mobile command center, constantly shifting locations. But she couldn't run forever. Maya pulled up a report, her expression tight. We've got movement, wolf enforcers, multiple packs. They're coordinating. How many? 60, maybe more. They're forming a coalition. Elara's jaw tightened. Let them. Elara, we can't fight that many. We're not going to fight. She turned to her father. We're going to negotiate. Darius frowned. With who? Kael. The room went silent. Maya stared at her. You want to negotiate with the man who rejected you? I want to negotiate with the only alpha who has the influence to stop this. Elara's voice was calm. KL controls the Northern Coalition. If he stands down, the others follow. And if he doesn't, then we lose. Elara met her father's eyes. But I'd rather try than hide. Darius was quiet for a long moment. Then he nodded. I'll set it up. Tick. The meeting was arranged in neutral territory, an abandoned industrial complex on the border between wolf and human land. Kyle arrived with 2 enforcers. Elara came alone. They faced each other across a rusted metal table, the wind howling through broken windows. You shouldn't have come alone, Kyle said. Neither should you. He almost smiled. Fair point. They stood in silence for a moment, the weight of everything unsaid pressing down like gravity. I didn't order the hit on you, Kyle said finally. I know. But someone in my council did. I know that too. Kale's hands curled into fists. I'm trying to hold this kingdom together, Elara. Every decision I make, someone hates it, someone questions it, and now you're making it worse. I'm protecting myself. By starting a war? By refusing to be a victim. Her voice was sharp. You threw me away, Kyle. You humiliated me. And when I built something without you, you acted like I betrayed you. I don't owe you stability. I don't owe you peace. Then what do you want? Elara stepped closer. I want you to stop pretending you're not part of this. You rejected me, fine, but that doesn't erase what we were, what we could have been. The bond is gone. The bond is broken. There's a difference. Her eyes locked onto his. And you feel it too. Don't lie to me. Kale's wolf stirred, restless, aching. She was right. The absence burned worse than the bond ever had. What do you want from me? He asked quietly. Help me stop this. Elara's voice softened. The coalition is coming for me. If they succeed, the infrastructure collapses. Your kingdom, Joran's, all of them, they fall. But if you stand with me, we can stabilize the region, together. You're asking me to choose you over my council. I'm asking you to choose survival over pride. Kale stared at her, torn between duty and something deeper. Something he'd tried to bury and failed. If I do this, he said slowly, they'll try to remove me. Then we remove them first. His eyes widened. You want to overthrow my council? I want to expose the ones who tried to kill me. Elara pulled out a tablet, sliding it across the table. I have proof. Financial records. Communications. Everything. 3 of your council members funded the hit. If you bring this to the full assembly, they're finished. Kale looked at the screen. Names. Transactions. Evidence. Morris. Vile. And one more. Corwin. His blood turned to ice. Corwin? He's been playing both sides, Elara said quietly. Advising you while feeding intelligence to your enemies. I'm sorry. Kale's world tilted. Corwin had been with him for 20 years, a friend, a confidant, a traitor. Why are you showing me this? Kale's voice was raw. Because you deserve the truth. Elara met his eyes. And because I need you to trust me, just this once. Kale stood there, the tablet in his hands, the weight of betrayal crushing his chest. Then he made his choice. I'll call an emergency assembly, tonight. Elara exhaled, relief flickering across her face. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. Kale's voice was hard. If this backfires, we're both dead. The emergency assembly convened at midnight. The war room was packed, council members, enforcers, allied alphas. The tension was suffocating. Kale stood at the head of the table, Elara beside him. The murmurs started immediately. What is she doing here? Maris demanded. She's here because I invited her. Kale's voice cut through the noise. And she has something you all need to see. Elara stepped forward, projecting the financial records onto the main screen. 3 members of this council hired a kill squad to assassinate me, she said calmly. Here's the proof. The room erupted. Maris shot to his feet. This is absurd. The money trail is clear, Elara continued. Offshore accounts, dummy corporations, all linked back to you, Vale, and Corwin. Corwin stood slowly, his face pale. Your Majesty, this is a fabrication, is it? Kale's voice was deadly quiet. He turned to face his oldest advisor. Did you betray me? Corwin's silence was answer enough. Khael's wolf exploded. He crossed the room in 2 strides, grabbing Corwin by the throat and slamming him against the wall. 20 years, Khael snarled. I trusted you. I was protecting the kingdom, Corwin choked out. She's dangerous. She saved us, Khael roared. And you tried to kill her. He threw Corwin to the ground. Morris and Vale tried to run. Khael's enforcers blocked the doors. You're finished, Khael said coldly. All 3 of you, exile, effective immediately. Morris lunged. Khael met him halfway, claws tearing through flesh. The fight was brief, brutal. When it ended, Morris lay broken on the floor, barely breathing. The room was silent. Khael turned to face the assembly, blood on his hands. Anyone else want to question my judgment? No one moved. Good. Khael's voice was iron. From this moment forward, Thorn Dynamics is recognized as a strategic partner. Elara Thorn has my full support. Cross her, and you cross me. He looked at Elara. She nodded once. It was done. Later, outside in the cold night air, Elara stood alone on the battlements. Khael found her there. You got what you wanted, he said quietly. Did I? She didn't look at him. I wanted survival. Instead, I got war. You also got respect. The Pax won't challenge you now. They'll fear me. That's not the same thing. Khael stepped closer. Why did you really come back? Elara finally turned to face him. Because I'm tired of running, and because I needed to know if you regretted it. Regretted what? Rejecting me. The question hung between them like a blade. Khael's throat tightened. Every day. Elara's breath caught. But it doesn't change anything, Khael continued, his voice rough. The bond is broken. We can't go back. I know. Her eyes glistened, but she didn't cry. But maybe we can go forward. Before Khael could respond, an explosion rocked the keep. Flames erupted from the eastern wing. Alarms blared. Wolves scattered, shouting orders. Elara grabbed Khael's arm. What the hell? A figure emerged from the smoke. Tall, scarred, moving with deadly precision. Garrick Voss. Alive. He grinned, blood on his teeth. Miss me? And behind him, an army of rogue wolves poured through the breached wall. The rogue wolves hit the keep like a tidal wave, fast, coordinated, merciless. They weren't random attackers. They were soldiers. Khael's enforcers scrambled to form defensive lines, but the breach was too wide. Rogues poured through the shattered eastern wall, claws out, eyes wild with bloodlust. The courtyard erupted into chaos, snarls, screams, the wet sound of flesh tearing. Elara pulled a knife from her boot, her mind racing. Garrick was supposed to be dead. Darius had put a bullet in his skull 2 weeks ago. Apparently, he'd gotten better. Fall back, Khael roared, his wolf fully surfaced now, eyes burning gold, claws extended. He tore into the nearest rogue, ripping through muscle and bone with brutal efficiency. Protect the inner keep. Elara moved with him, staying low, using the chaos as cover. She spotted Maya across the courtyard, firing controlled bursts into the crowd. Their eyes met for half a second, a silent exchange. This wasn't random. This was coordinated with the council's arrest. Someone knew Khael would be vulnerable tonight. Garrick strode through the flames like he owned the place, his scarred face twisted into a grin. Brought some friends this time, Thorn. Thought we'd even the odds. Elara didn't waste breath on a reply. She threw the knife. It embedded in Garrick's shoulder. He didn't even flinch, just pulled it out and tossed it aside, blood streaming down his arm. Cute, he said, but I've had worse. He lunged. Khael intercepted him mid-air, slamming into Garrick with the force of a freight train. They crashed into the stone wall, the impact cracking the ancient masonry. Khael's claws raked across Garrick's chest, but the man was built like a tank. He absorbed the damage and kept fighting. You should have stayed out of this, King, Garrick growled, his own claws slashing toward Khael's throat. Khael ducked, drove his fist into Garrick's ribs. Something cracked. You should have stayed dead. Elara scanned the battlefield, her tactical mind working overtime. 60 rogues? Maybe more. Khael's enforcers were outnumbered 2-1. They were losing ground fast. She keyed her comms. Maya, status. Pinned down. East wing. We need an exit. Working on it. Elara sprinted toward the main hall, dodging fights, vaulting over bodies. Her pulse hammered, but her hands were steady. She'd learned a long time ago that panic got you killed. Inside the hall, she found what she was looking for. The emergency lockdown controls. Every keep had them. Relics from the old wars designed to seal the fortress in case of invasion. She slammed her hand on the activation panel. Nothing happened. Damn it! She pried open the control box. The wiring was ancient, corroded. Half the circuits were fried. Footsteps behind her. Elara spun, knife ready. A rogue wolf stood in the doorway, young, wild-eyed, foam at the corners of his mouth. Feral, not thinking, just hunting. Easy, Elara said quietly, backing toward the wall. The wolf snarled and charged. Elara waited until the last possible second, then sidestepped. The rogue crashed into the control panel, sparks flying. Elara drove her knife into the base of his skull. He dropped like a stone. She yanked the knife free, wiping it on her pants. The control panel flickered, then lit up. "Thank you," she muttered to the corpse. She hit the lockdown sequence. Steel barriers slammed down over the windows. The main gates groaned shut, hydraulics screaming. The rogues inside were trapped. But so was everyone else. Outside in the courtyard, the fighting intensified. The rogues realized they were boxed in and went berserk, throwing themselves at Kael's enforcers with suicidal fury. Kael fought like a demon, claws, teeth, raw animal savagery. But even he was starting to slow. Blood streaked his face, his movements a fraction slower than before. Garrick saw the opening and took it. He drove his claws into Kael's side, tearing through muscle. Kael roared, staggering back. Garrick pressed the advantage, slamming Kael to the ground, claws at his throat. "Any last words, King?" A gunshot cracked through the air. Garrick jerked, a neat hole appearing in his temple. He toppled sideways, dead before he hit the ground. Elara stood on the balcony above, Maya's rifle in her hands. "That's two," she said coldly. Kael gasped, clutching his bleeding side. "Took you long enough." "You're welcome." She tossed the rifle to Maya and vaulted over the balcony railing, landing hard but rolling to absorb the impact. Her ankle screamed in protest, but she ignored it. "How bad?" she asked, kneeling beside Kael. "I'll live," he grunted, pressing a hand to the wound. "The lockdown. That was you?" Someone had to think. A faint smile tugged at his mouth. "Remind me to thank you later. I'll send you a bill." The fighting was dying down. With Garrick dead and the exits sealed, the remaining rogues were being systematically eliminated. Kael's enforcers moved through the courtyard in coordinated pairs, finishing what was left. It was brutal, efficient, and over within 10 minutes. When the last rogue fell, silence descended like a shroud. Elara stood slowly, surveying the carnage. Bodies everywhere. Blood pooling on the ancient stones. The eastern wall was a smoking ruin. "We need answers," she said quietly. Kael nodded, wincing as he stood. "Agreed. Someone organized this. Someone with resources and inside knowledge. And access to your schedule." Elara's eyes narrowed. "They knew you'd be vulnerable tonight, right after the council purge. Which means there's another traitor." She turned to face him. "Someone still on the inside." Kael's expression darkened. "I'll find them." "We'll find them," Elara corrected. "This is my fight too now." Before he could argue, Maya jogged over, her face grim. "We've got a problem." "What now?" Kael asked. "One of the rogues is still alive, and he's talking. They found him in the dungeon, a young wolf, barely 20, bleeding from a dozen wounds. He was chained to the wall, defiant despite the pain. Kael stood over him, arms crossed. "Who sent you?" The rogue spat blood. "Go to hell." "Wrong answer." Kael's claws extended. "Wait." Elara stepped forward. "Let me try." Kael hesitated, then nodded. Elara crouched in front of the rogue, her expression calm. "What's your name?" The wolf blinked, surprised by the question. "Why do you care?" "Because I want to know who I'm talking to." A pause. "Finn." "Finn." Elara nodded. "You're young, too young to be leading a raid like this, which means someone recruited you, promised you something." Finn's jaw tightened. Money? Elara guessed. Territory? Revenge against the packs that cast you out? Silence. Here's the truth, Finn, Elara said quietly. Whoever sent you here, they don't care if you live or die. You're expendable, a tool. And now that you've failed, they'll move on to the next group of desperate wolves and do it all over again. You don't know that. Yes, I do. Because I've been expendable too. She met his eyes. I was rejected, cast out, hunted. I know what it's like to be used. So I'm offering you a choice. Tell me who organized this, and I'll make sure you walk out of here alive. Or stay silent, and Kyle will tear the information out of you piece by piece. Finn's gaze flicked to Kale, who stood like a statue, blood still dripping from his claws. The woman, Finn said finally. Dark hair, silver eyes. She came to us 3 weeks ago, said she represented someone powerful, said if we took out the king and his corporate ally, we'd be rewarded. Elara's blood ran cold. Did she give you a name? No, but she had a symbol. Finn shifted, wincing. A wolf with broken chains, worn as a pendant. Kale and Elara exchanged a look. That's the Ember Circle, Kale said quietly. The what? Elara frowned. An old faction, disbanded 20 years ago after they tried to overthrow the council system. They believed in complete wolf autonomy, no alliances, no structure, no kings, just pure survival of the strongest. And someone's reviving it, Elara stood. Someone who wants chaos. Or someone who wants to rebuild the northern territories from scratch, Kale added grimly. Elara's mind raced. We need to find this woman, now. Agreed, Kale turned to his enforcers. Start a search. Anyone with connections to the Ember Circle. I want names, locations, anything. They scattered. Elara pulled Kyle aside. This is bigger than we thought. I know. If the Ember Circle is back, they're not just targeting you. They're targeting the entire power structure, kings, councils, alliances, everything. Which means you're a target too. Elara smiled faintly. I've been a target since the day I was born. Kale studied her for a long moment. Then, against all logic, he laughed, a short, bitter sound. What? Elara asked. You. Standing here covered in blood, planning the next move like it's a business negotiation. 6 months ago, you were a quiet herbalist who wouldn't say a word in council. 6 months ago, I had something to lose. And now? Now I have something to fight for. The moment hung between them, charged, complicated. Then Kyle's expression shifted. I need to tell you something. What? When I rejected you, he paused, struggling with the words. I thought I was protecting the kingdom. I thought duty meant sacrifice. But I was wrong. Elara's breath caught. I should have fought for you, Kyle continued, his voice rough. I should have stood in front of that entire assembly and told them to go to hell. Because the bond, it wasn't a weakness. It was the strongest thing I'd ever felt. And I destroyed it because I was a coward. Kyle, let me finish. He stepped closer. I can't undo what I did. The bond is broken. But if there's any part of you that's still... An explosion rocked the keep. Not from the walls this time, from below. The ground shook, stone cracked. Somewhere deep in the foundation, something catastrophic was happening. The catacombs, Kale breathed. They ran. The entrance to the catacombs was a jagged hole blown through the floor of the eastern wing. Smoke poured out, thick and acrid. Elara covered her mouth, peering into the darkness. What's down there? She asked. The old armory, archives, emergency supplies. Kale's face was pale. And the vault. Vault? Where we store the pack's most valuable assets. Treaties, gold, artifacts. He looked at her. If someone's targeting that, they're not just trying to destabilize you. They're trying to erase your legitimacy entirely. Kale grabbed a torch and started down the stairs. Elara followed, Maya and 2 enforcers close behind. The catacombs were ancient, stone walls carved with old pack symbols, the air damp and cold. The explosion had collapsed part of the main tunnel, but there was a path through the rubble. They found the vault door torn open, the heavy steel twisted like paper. Inside, chaos. Shelves overturned, documents scattered, and in the center of the room, standing over a pile of burning treaties, was a woman. Dark hair, silver eyes, the broken chain pendant glinting at her throat. She turned, smiled. Alpha King, right on time. Kael's wolf surged. Who are you? Someone who remembers what the packs used to be. Before kings, before councils. She kicked the burning pile, sending embers scattering. Before weakness. Your ember circle, Elara said. I'm the only thing left of it. The woman's smile widened. My name is Lisa, and I've been waiting a very long time for this moment. For what? Kael growled. To watch your kingdom burn. Lisa pulled a detonator from her coat. This vault sits on top of the old powder stores. Your ancestors stockpiled enough explosives down here to level half the mountain. I've just armed them. Elara's blood turned to ice. You're bluffing. Am I? Lissa's thumb hovered over the button. One press, and everything collapses. The keep. The territories connected to it. Every pack that built their power on your father's legacy. You'll die too, Kael said. I know. Lissa's eyes gleamed. But some things are worth dying for. Wait. Elara stepped forward, hands raised. You want to destroy the system. I get it. But this, killing hundreds of innocent wolves, that's not revolution. That's just murder. Innocence is a luxury, Lisa said coldly. These packs enslaved themselves to kings and councils. They forgot what it means to be wild, to be free. I'm giving them a chance to remember. By slaughtering them? By wiping the slate clean. Elara's mind raced. Lissa was a fanatic. Reasoning wouldn't work. Force wouldn't work. The detonator was already armed, so she went with the truth. You're right, Elara said quietly. Everyone stared at her. The system is broken, Elara continued. Kings hoard power. Councils make decisions that benefit themselves, not the packs. I've seen it firsthand. I was discarded because my bloodline was inconvenient, cast out, hunted. Lissa's expression flickered. Surprise, then suspicion. But destroying it won't fix it, Elara said. It'll just create more chaos, more suffering. If you really want change, you don't burn it down. You rebuild it, smarter, stronger, better. Pretty words, Lissa said. But I've heard them before, from kings who promised reform and delivered chains. Then let me show you. Elara pulled out her tablet, displaying the infrastructure network. This is what I've built. A system where power isn't hoarded. It's distributed, where resources are controlled by cooperation, not domination. It's not perfect, but it's a start. Lissa stared at the screen, her thumb still on the detonator. You want to free the packs? Elara pressed. Help me dismantle the old guard, legally, strategically. We expose the corruption, force reform, and build something new, together. And if I say no, then you press that button and we all die, including the wolves you're trying to save. Silence. Lissa's hand trembled. Then, slowly, she lowered the detonator. You've got one chance, she said. Prove you're different. Prove this isn't just another power grab. I will. Lissa tossed the detonator to Elara. Then you disarm it. Elara caught it, her heart hammering. She looked at the device, red LED blinking, timer counting down. 3 minutes. Maya, she said calmly, I need a tech specialist, now. On it! Maya was already on her comms. Kael moved beside Elara, his voice low. Can you actually disarm that? No idea. She studied the wiring. But I'm about to find out. 90 seconds. Her fingers worked carefully, peeling back the casing. The wiring was complex, multiple redundancies, fail-safes designed to prevent tampering. 60 seconds. Elara, Kael said quietly. Not now. If this goes wrong, it won't. 30 seconds. She found the primary circuit. A simple cut would do it. But there was a secondary trigger, pressure sensitive. If she cut wrong, it would detonate anyway. 15 seconds. Everyone out, Kael ordered. No one moved. 10 seconds. Elara closed her eyes, steadied her breathing, and made the cut. The timer stopped. The LED went dark. She exhaled shakily. Clear! The room erupted in relieved chaos. Maya grabbed her in a crushing hug. Kael's enforcers slumped against the walls, adrenaline crashing. Lissa watched from the corner, her expression unreadable. "You're either the bravest person I've ever met," she said, "or the most insane." "Probably both," Elara admitted. Kael stepped forward, his eyes on Lissa. "You're under arrest." Figured. Lissa didn't resist as the enforcers moved in, but as they cuffed her, she looked at Elara. "Don't let them turn you into one of them. Stay wild." Elara nodded slowly. "I'll try." They led Lissa away. Kael turned to Elara, his expression complicated. "You just negotiated with a terrorist." "I just stopped an explosion." She met his eyes. "There's a difference. You could have died. So could you. So could everyone in this keep." She gestured to the detonator. "But we didn't. Because sometimes the only way to win is to risk everything." Kael stared at her for a long moment. Then he reached out, pulling her into a fierce embrace. Elara stiffened, then relaxed, her forehead pressing against his shoulder. "I thought I lost you," he murmured. "You did. 6 months ago." "I know." His voice cracked. "I'm sorry." "I know." They stood there in the ruined vault, surrounded by ash and broken treaties, holding on to each other like the world was ending. Maybe it was. Or maybe it was just beginning. 2 days later, Kael called a summit. Not a council meeting, not a closed-door negotiation, a full territorial assembly, every alpha, every pack leader, every wolf with a voice in the northern territories. They gathered in the grand hall of Firestone, hundreds strong, and standing beside Kael at the front, not behind him, not in the shadows, was Elara. The murmurs started immediately. Kael raised a hand. Silence fell. 6 months ago, he began, I made a decision I regret. I rejected my fated mate in the name of political strategy. I told myself it was for the good of the kingdom. That duty demanded sacrifice. He paused, his eyes scanning the crowd. I was wrong. The hall erupted in whispers. The bond I severed wasn't just personal, it was foundational, and the moment I broke it, the kingdom started fracturing. Supply failures, instability, attacks from within and without. I blamed external forces. I blamed bad luck. I blamed everyone but myself. He looked at Elara. But the truth is simple. I rejected strength because I was afraid of it. I rejected partnership because I thought control meant ruling alone. And I nearly destroyed everything because of it. Kael turned back to the assembly. Elara Thorne rebuilt power from nothing. While I was clinging to the old system, she was building a new one. Smarter, more resilient, more effective. And instead of learning from her, I fought her, undermined her, treated her like a threat. He stepped aside, gesturing to Elara. She's not the threat. The old system is. And it's time we admitted it. Elara stepped forward, her heart pounding but her voice steady. I'm not here to take power, she said clearly. I'm here to share it. The Northern Territories are broken because power has been concentrated in too few hands for too long. Kings making decisions without accountability. Councils serving their own interests. Alliances built on fear instead of trust. She pulled up the infrastructure network on the main display. This is what I'm offering. A distributed system where resources are controlled cooperatively. Where power is earned through contribution, not birthright. Where transparency replaces secrecy. And if we refuse? Alpha Jorn called from the back. Elara met his eyes. Then you continue as you are, fighting over scraps, watching your territories collapse, blaming everyone but yourselves. You're asking us to give up sovereignty, another Alpha said. I'm asking you to share it. Elara's voice was firm. Sovereignty without stability is just chaos with a crown. The room was silent. Then, from the side, an unexpected voice. I support it. Everyone turned. Alpha Senna of Coldridge stood, her expression hard but resolute. My pack nearly starved last winter because our supply routes failed. If this system can prevent that, I'm in. One by one, other alphas stood. Not all of them, but enough. Kael watched, something like pride warming his chest. Then it's settled, he said. We move forward. Together. The assembly dissolved into cautious conversation. Deals being made, alliances shifting. Elara stepped back, exhausted but victorious. Kyle found her on the balcony later, staring out at the snow-covered mountains. "You did it," he said quietly. "We did it," she corrected. "Still, you turned the tide. I just gave them an alternative. They chose it themselves." Kale leaned against the railing beside her. "What happens now?" "Now we build. Slowly, carefully." She glanced at him. "And we figure out what we are to each other." "What do you want us to be?" Elara was quiet for a long moment. "I want honesty. No more politics. No more sacrifices for strategy. Just truth." "I can do that." "Can you?" She turned to face him fully. "Because the bond is gone, Kyle. We can't go back to what we were. But maybe we can build something new," he finished. She smiled faintly. "Maybe." He reached out, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. "I'm willing to try. If you are." Elara looked at him, really looked, at the man who'd rejected her, hurt her, and then fought beside her. "One step at a time," she said. "One step at a time," he agreed. And for the first time in 6 months, the absence didn't burn quite so badly, because they were choosing each other, not because of fate, but because they wanted to. The words echoed in Elara's mind long after Kyle left the balcony. She stood alone in the cold, watching the first light of dawn creep over the mountains. Somewhere below, the keep was already buzzing with activity, repairs being coordinated, alliances being formalized, the machinery of change grinding into motion. She'd won, sort of. The Northern Territories had agreed to cooperate. The infrastructure network was expanding. Power was being redistributed. But winning felt different than she'd imagined. Quieter, more complicated. "You look exhausted." Elara turned. Her father stood in the doorway, wrapped in a heavy coat, his face lined with concern. "I am," she admitted. Darius stepped onto the balcony, leaning against the stone railing beside her. "You did good work last night." "I gave them an option. They took it." "You gave them hope." "There's a difference." He glanced at her. "But hope is fragile. If this system fails, they'll turn on you faster than you can blink." "I know. And if Kyle changes his mind—" "He won't." Elara's voice was firm. "Not this time." Darius studied her for a long moment. "You trust him." "I'm choosing to." "That's not the same thing." "It's close enough." Elara exhaled, her breath misting in the cold air. "The bond is gone. I can't feel what he feels anymore. I have to trust what he says, what he does. And if he disappoints you again, then I'll survive. Like I always do." Darius smiled faintly. "You've gotten hard. I've gotten smart." She met his eyes. "You taught me that." "I taught you to survive. You taught yourself to win." He paused. "I'm proud of you." The words hit harder than she expected. Elara's throat tightened, but she didn't cry. She'd cried enough in the last 6 months. "Thank you," she said quietly. They stood in silence, watching the sun rise over the broken keep. Then Darius spoke again. "There's something you need to know." Elara tensed. "What?" "The Ember Circle. Lissa wasn't working alone. We found communications in her personal effects, encrypted, but Maya cracked them. And there's a council, not Kyle's council, a shadow network operating across multiple territories. They've been orchestrating instability for years, small disruptions, targeted attacks, all designed to weaken the northern packs." Elara's blood ran cold. "Why?" "To create a power vacuum, so they can step in and rebuild the territories under their control." Darius handed her a tablet. "These are the names we've identified so far." Elara scanned the list. Her stomach dropped. 3 names she recognized. High-ranking wolves from allied packs. Wolves she'd negotiated with, trusted. "How deep does this go?" she asked. "Deeper than we thought. This isn't just about Kyle's kingdom. It's about the entire Northern Alliance." Elara's mind raced. "Does Kyle know?" "Not yet. I wanted to tell you first." She looked at the list again, her jaw tightening. If we expose this now, it'll tear the alliance apart. The pacts that just agreed to cooperate, they'll turn on each other. And if we don't expose it, the Shadow Council keeps operating, keeps undermining everything we're trying to build. Elara closed her eyes, the weight of the decision crushing her chest. Give me until tonight, she said finally. I need to think. The wedding was announced 3 weeks later, not Elara's, Kael's, to Lady Seraphine Ashmar, Alpha Reese's sister. A strategic alliance designed to solidify the Northern Coalition and bind the Ashmar Pack into the new cooperative system. Elara heard the news from Maya, who delivered it with the emotional range of a weather report. The ceremony's in 2 weeks, full formal affair. Every pack leader's invited. Elara sat at her desk, her expression unreadable. I see. Are you going? I don't know yet. Maya crossed her arms. You should. If you don't show, people will assume you're bitter, weak. It'll undermine everything you've built. And if I do show, then you prove you've moved on, that this was never about him. Elara looked down at the infrastructure report spread across her desk. Supply routes stabilizing, trade agreements holding. The system was working, but it still felt hollow. I'll think about it, she said. Maya didn't push. She just nodded and left. Elara sat alone in the quiet office, the city lights glittering beyond the windows. Kael was getting married to someone else. It shouldn't hurt. The bond was gone. She'd moved on, built a new life, proven herself. But it did. It hurt like hell. Kael stood in his chambers, staring at the formal wedding contract on his desk. It was a good match, strategic. Seraphine was intelligent, capable, politically savvy. The alliance with Ashmar would strengthen the northern territories, secure trade routes, prevent future conflicts, everything a king should want. So why did it feel like he was signing his own death warrant? You don't have to do this. Kael turned. Darius Thorne stood in the doorway, uninvited, unannounced, and completely unbothered by the breach of protocol. How did you get in here? Kael asked. I walked. Your guards know me. Darius stepped inside, closing the door behind him. We need to talk. About what? About the fact that you're about to marry a woman you don't love while the woman you do love is 300 miles away rebuilding the infrastructure that keeps your kingdom alive. Kael's jaw tightened. The bond is broken. Elara and I, we're working together. That's all. Is it? What do you want me to say? Kael's voice was sharp. That I regret the rejection? I do. That I'd undo it if I could? I would. But I can't. The bond is gone. I can't feel her anymore, can't reach her. She's moved on. She hasn't, Kael froze. She's hurting, Darius continued. She won't show it, won't say it, but I see it. Every time your name comes up, she flinches. And now you're marrying someone else. And she's going to smile and show up and pretend it doesn't matter because that's what survivors do. Then what am I supposed to do? Kael's voice cracked. The alliance needs this. The packs need stability. I can't just... You can. Darius stepped closer. You're a king. You have power. Use it. To do what? To choose her. For real this time. Not because of fate. Not because of a bond. Because you want to. Kael stared at him, torn between duty and desire. If I cancel this wedding, Reese will see it as an insult. The alliance will fracture. Then make him a better offer. Give him something he wants more than a marriage alliance. Like what? Darius smiled faintly. Like the truth. The Shadow Council was exposed 2 days before the wedding. Elara stood in front of the full territorial assembly, her voice steady and clear as she laid out the evidence. Financial records, encrypted communications, testimonies from captured operatives, 3 high-ranking wolves from allied packs, 2 council members from neutral territories, 1 former advisor to Kael's father, all of them working together to destabilize the Northern Alliance. The hall erupted in chaos. This is a lie, one of the accused shouted. She's fabricating evidence to consolidate power. The evidence is real, Kael said, stepping forward. I've reviewed it personally, and I'm calling for immediate trials. You're protecting her, another voice yelled. This is exactly what we warned you about. She's controlling you. She's not controlling me. Kael's voice cut through the noise like a blade.
She's saving us.
While you were plotting to tear this alliance apart, she was building the infrastructure that keeps us alive. While you were hoarding power, she was distributing it. And while you were hiding in the shadows, she was standing in the light. He turned to face the assembly. I rejected Elara Thorne because I thought politics mattered more than truth. I was wrong. The bond we shared wasn't a weakness. It was a compass. And without it, I nearly destroyed everything. He looked at Elara. But she didn't need the bond to be strong. She didn't need me to build power. She did it herself. And if this alliance survives, it'll be because of her, not me. The hall went silent. Elara stood frozen, her heart hammering. Kyle crossed the distance between them, stopping just in front of her. I'm canceling the wedding, he said quietly. Elara's breath caught. What? The alliance with Ashmar stands, but the marriage doesn't. I'm offering Reese something better, full economic partnership, shared governance over the Eastern Territories. Real power, not symbolic. Kale, you can't. I already did. He reached out, taking her hand. I'm done making decisions based on what I think I should do. I'm choosing what I want, and I want you. Not because fate tied us together, because I choose to. Elara stared at him, emotions crashing through her like a tidal wave. The bond is gone, she whispered. I know. We can't feel each other anymore. I know. Then how do you know this is real? Kale smiled faintly. Because I'm terrified, and I'm doing it anyway. Elara laughed, a broken, wet sound. That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Probably. He stepped closer. But it's true. She looked up at him, searching his eyes for doubt, for hesitation. She found none. One step at a time, she said finally. One step at a time, he agreed, and in front of the entire assembly, surrounded by allies and enemies alike, Kyle Viramont kissed Elara Thorne, not as a king claiming his mate, but as a man choosing his partner. The hall erupted, some in cheers, some in outrage. Elara didn't care. For the first time in 6 months, she felt whole. The trials took 3 weeks. The Shadow Council members were found guilty on all counts. 2 were exiled. 1 was executed for treason. The rest were stripped of rank and barred from holding power. The Northern Territories stabilized. Trade routes flowed smoothly, supply chains held. The cooperative infrastructure network expanded, bringing in smaller packs that had been struggling for years. Elara's company, Thorne Dynamics, became the backbone of the new system, not through domination but through partnership. And slowly, grudgingly, the packs began to trust her. Not because of her bloodline, because of what she'd built. 6 months after the exposure, Elara stood in the rebuilt eastern wing of Firestone Keep, reviewing construction plans with Maya. The new council chamber will be ready next month, Maya said. Bigger, more transparent, public gallery included. Good. Elara marked a note on the blueprint. And the voting system? Installed. Every pack gets representation based on population and contribution. No more backroom deals. Perfect. Footsteps echoed behind them. Kyle appeared, covered in dust, his sleeves rolled up. He'd been working with the construction crews all morning, something that still surprised the older wolves. The foundation's solid, he said, wiping sweat from his forehead. We'll be ahead of schedule. Elara raised an eyebrow. You know you don't have to do manual labor, right? You're a king. I'm a wolf with hands. Might as well use them. He grinned. Besides, the crews respect it. Maya snorted. They respect it because you can lift twice what they can. That too. Elara shook her head, smiling despite herself. Kale had changed, not overnight, not perfectly, but genuinely. He listened now, consulted, shared power instead of hoarding it. And slowly, painfully, they were rebuilding trust. Not the bond, something harder, something earned. That night they sat on the repaired balcony, watching the stars. I got a message from Lysa, Elara said quietly. Kyle looked over. The Ember Circle leader? Yeah. She's in exile now, living in the southern wilds, but she sent a letter. What did it say? Elara pulled the folded paper from her pocket, reading aloud. You kept your promise. The system is changing. slowly, imperfectly, but changing. I still think you're naive, but maybe that's what the world needs. Someone foolish enough to believe things can be better. Stay wild, Thorn. Don't let them tame you. Kel was quiet for a moment. She's right, you know. About what? You're still wild, underneath the corporate suits and the political strategies. You haven't been tamed. Elara smiled faintly. Neither have you. Good. He reached out, taking her hand. Let's keep it that way. They sat in comfortable silence, fingers intertwined. The bond was gone. They couldn't feel each other's emotions, couldn't sense each other's presence across distances, but they had something else. Choice. Every day they chose each other, every decision they made together. It was harder than a bond, more fragile, more uncertain, but it was real. 1 year after the rejection, Elara stood before the full territorial assembly again, but this time she wasn't defending herself. She was being honored. The new council, elected, transparent, representative, had voted unanimously to grant her the title of Architect of the Northern Alliance. Not a queen, not a ruler, a builder. Kael stood beside her, his hand on her shoulder as the council leader spoke. Elara Thorn was rejected, cast out, and hunted. She could have sought revenge. Instead, she built a system that saved us all. She proved that power doesn't come from bloodlines or bonds. It comes from vision, courage, and the willingness to fight for something better. The hall erupted in applause. Elara stood there, overwhelmed, as hundreds of wolves who'd once sneered at her, dismissed her, tried to kill her, stood and cheered. Kael leaned close, his voice low. You did it. We did it, she corrected. Still, this is your moment. Elara looked out at the assembly, at the packs who'd learned to cooperate, at the system she'd built from nothing. It wasn't perfect. It would never be perfect, but it was better, and that was enough. Later that night, in the quiet privacy of Kael's chambers, they lay tangled together, exhausted but content. Do you ever regret it? Kael asked quietly. Regret what? Accepting the rejection. Walking away. If you'd fought harder, maybe the bond could have been saved. Elara was quiet for a long moment. No. No? The bond was beautiful, but it wasn't built on choice. It was fate. Instinct. She turned to face him. What we have now, it's harder, but it's ours. We built it, we chose it, and that means more to me than any bond ever could. Kael kissed her forehead. I don't deserve you. You're right, you don't. She smiled. But I'm choosing you anyway. Lucky me. Extremely. They fell asleep like that, wrapped around each other, no bond tying them together, just choice. Just love. The hard kind. The kind that lasts. 5 years later, the Northern Territories were unrecognizable. The cooperative infrastructure network had expanded across the continent. Smaller packs joined willingly, drawn by stability and opportunity. The old council system was gone, replaced by elected representation. Kael and Elara ruled together, not as king and queen, but as partners. Equal voices in a system they'd built from the ruins of the old one. Darius retired finally at peace, spending his days teaching young wolves about strategy and survival. Maya led the security division, fiercely protective and absolutely terrifying. And Elara stood on the balcony of the rebuilt keep, watching the sun set over the mountains, a small smile on her face. She'd been rejected, discarded, hunted, and she'd won. Not by becoming what they wanted, but by becoming who she needed to be. Kael joined her, slipping an arm around her waist. What are you thinking about? He asked. How far we've come. And how far we still have to go. He laughed, always thinking ahead. Someone has to. They stood together, watching the world they'd rebuilt. It wasn't perfect. It never would be. But it was theirs. And they'd fought like hell to protect it. The bond was gone. But they'd found something better. A partnership forged in fire, built on trust, and chosen every single day. Not because they had to, because they wanted to. And in the end, that was the strongest bond of all.